All right, one thing I've actually changed since the last video is I took the actual move from skill to spell, mainly because anything that's under skill uses physical damage to calculate. Anything that's under spell uses magic damage to calculate. And since this is a magic spell that uses the actual magic damage of the enemy to be able to do the damage, we had to move it over. You don't have to do this. You can, however you program the skill inside of the actual animation to be able to do physical or magic damage, you can do it that way. But I just try to keep it to where all spells are on spell side. All anything magic would be a spell, anything physical would be a skill. Um, Sorry about that. I have to keep pausing the mic just to make sure that my kids remember that I'm trying to record, so to keep the sound down. Um, I'm making sure everything is set correctly. Every three skills, we have this. We have no icon for the actual skill. We have the animation montage linked here. Um, we're only using 30% of our actual calculated magic power for this. Otherwise, the spell could be too powerful. So we're saving this, and we don't have to load back at our title screen since we're just tweaking a skill, and it loads your skills and all this magic from the actual database at at runtime in the beginning. So it's not as they spawn, it's actually at runtime when the battle spears are initialized. So that way you don't get any kind of loading jerk when you're trying to calculate things. So now I'm taking a little bit of damage. I'm being pushed back. The pushback is controlled by how I have it in the system. And about I think I have it every 5. It's still random, even though you have it set to every 5. The actual AI, when it goes to pick moves, it's going to depends depending on their AI setting, it's going to randomize how often they use a skill or how often they use an ability. So even if the time has elapsed, unless their AI is geared to use skills more often or spells more often, it's going to actually load based on a random calculation. And right now I have her set to attack all. So that means she's going to do all of her attacks at a random amount. And she's going to pick about 50-50 chance of actually choosing whether she's going to do a skill or spell. And then within that skill and spell area, she's going to pick 50% she's going to pick 50% of the time to do either a skill or a magic. If you change that to where they're more geared towards skills, they would pick skills more often, and then their skill weight versus a spell will be about an 80% chance of that. You can go into the code and change that however you want, but it's just an option. So now we just came in within the spawning area of the actual spear. I'm going to check my attacks to make sure everything is good. That looks about right. My average damage should be around 10. Now note it's going to be higher than what we initially did with the classes, because when you actually have your character with armor, that's going to increase your stats. And also the actor has a modification for stats as well, which changes your overall damage intake and damage output. Same thing for your magic. And what I added in here is the actual third move of the attack is kind of a magic attack, of which that's the reason why it's so weak. And if you notice the numbers, the actual regular numbers are, the red numbers show physical damage, the blue numbers show magic damage. And if I can see if I can get a crit real quick, those numbers will actually change to a different number. And looks like I'm not getting a critical as often as I want. There we go. That 17 was a physical crit. I left the spawn spear area. This is one reason why usually I have the spawn spear set to like 30,000, so that way you can't just accidentally roam out of the area of the spawn spear. There we go. That was a critical. That was still a normal magic spell though. So I'm charging my third hit, which actually goes into a skill if I have one equipped. That yellow that you just saw was actually a crit magic damage. So you can charge any attack. I missed. There we go. That was a magic crit. You can charge any skill, well, any hit to try to do more damage. And you can balance that however you want. That was just something that I had in the mechanic, just I was testing out. You can change that however you want. That was just something that seems kind of like a battle mechanic that can work for certain type of things. And if I actually had the skill enabled, well, added to the chart, I actually have a finisher move for the third charge that actually does an additional hit after that. That's also magic damage, but it will also push all the enemies around me away as well as damage all the enemies around me instead of just the cone damage like it does right now for regular hits. But that will be added just the same way that we just added a skill for the actual enemy. Of which I think I'm running out of time, but the next video we can go through and add our character's finisher move, which would be a skill, and we can also add in the actual death move for the sprites so that they can blow themselves up.